Oh, shoot. Hello, good morning, happy Wednesday. People call Wednesday hump day, and I think it's about getting over the hump for your week. And really, a day is what you make it. So, welcome to the kitchen table. My name is Roxanne Harris. Robin Parr will be just right back, having a little technical difficulty. But welcome to the kitchen table. This is an amazing opportunity for all of us ladies to get together and share about everything going on in the woman's world, whether it's, cooking, cleaning, skincare, beauty care, health, recipes, issues with children, relationships, intimacy, and more. This is where we can come around the kitchen table and join together like women used to do. So this was a concept that I had in my heart for many years, because as a small child, I used to watch my mom, and this is what all the ladies in our neighborhood did. Was they got together and they sat around the table, and lots of times it was just chit chat. But the thing is everyone was helping with the parenting of each other's children, giving ideas on maybe behavioral issues, sharing recipes, frustrations, where the best sales were. So I welcome you and invite you to join us at the kitchen table every Wednesday at 12 noon, and grab yourself a cup of something yummy. So whether that's water to nourish and hydrate you at the cellular level, maybe you need a good cup of tea, a cup of hot chocolate, or maybe some of these amazing mushroom powders and these mushroom blends that are available now that really help with our immune system and cognitive function. But join me. So today we're going to talk about do what makes your soul shine. And as I mentioned, Robin will be right back. She's just having a little technical difficulty, and she will be joining me. But I want to spend today, because we're getting really close to Valentine's Day. And this is coming up every year on February 14th. It's a day to, choose to show and demonstrate love. And so we talk about love as, a feeling, when really that's actually not true. Love is our actions. It's what we do for one another, and it's also what we do for ourselves. And some people I've met over many years have a strong aversion to Valentine's Day. They talk about Valentine's Day as, I don't need that day to show, my partner how much I love them. Don't tell me when to do that. And my question is always, well, but do you do that on a regular basis? Because love is not a feeling, it is an action. And it is, again, what we do for one another. So we can't pay it lip service and say, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. But there's no actions behind that demonstrate love. And there's a really amazing book, and maybe you've heard of it because it is actually quite old. It's been around, I think, for about 25 years or so. And it's called The Five Love Languages. And it's a really interesting read on determining what your love language is all about. And some women, unfortunately, their love bank, their love tank, their fuel is so depleted that many women actually forget what is my love language. And it doesn't seem to matter what their spouse does, their children, their family, that they really don't feel the love because they are so depleted. And I want to jump off and kind of talk about, a lot of the way that we receive love and perceive love is based on how we receive love and perceive it ourselves. Okay. And so if we are not loving our own self, it can be very difficult to receive compliments or praise or accolades from others as well. How many times as a woman have we seen or had someone give us a compliment and then we kind of just throw it back in their face. Someone will say, oh, you look good today. Oh, this old thing, right? Or, oh, you look so radiant today. Oh, really? Because I kind of feel like garbage. But we throw these compliments back as a way of kind of almost deflecting that love or that care or attention. Some women even go so far as to think, well, what do you want from me that you would say that about me? And it comes to how we actually feel about our own selves. And we want to open up today and talk about how we actually accept ourselves, fuel ourselves with our own love, our own acceptance, and realizing that we have so much inside of us to give to the world around us that there's no it's harder to hide it and to stuff it in than it really is to let it shine out. Too many of us spend way too much time stuffing in all of our goodness and hiding it from the world because of one person who maybe said something when we were standing in our radiance, in our joy, in our creativity, in our passion, and it hurt us. And so we decided that we were never going to share that again. And each and every one of us, we are created so differently, right? There is no two people on the face of this earth that ever were or ever will be identically the same in our personalities, in our gifts, in our talents, in our abilities. There's no one that has the same combination as you, which is why, I talk about in my book, and if you're one of my clients, I'm always talking about showing up as the best you, as the most authentic version of you. We go through life, and this is kind of ingrained into us even as a small child, that we should look up to certain people and try and emulate them or be like other people, be like those that are the popular kids or the ladies, that seem to have it all together. And really, it's at the expense of being ourselves, right? And being true to who we are as that genuine and authentic woman. So there are masks that we tend to wear depending on the situations that we are in, because there's been a social or a conscious conditioning that has told us that it is not okay to be who we are. And I want to change that for you today. I want to get you thinking a little bit about, that beautiful, radiant soul that came into this world X number of years ago with all of this amazing potential and for how you were going to live out your life, but also for how you were going to impact others around you in a positive way that only you can. Have you ever noticed that, sometimes you're trying to, maybe there's three of you and you're all really, really good friends, and one of your friends is having, a major life crisis, an emotional situation, and you're trying to support them, and two friends are saying the same thing, really, in essence, but the way they say it, the way they convey it, the way they talk. One friend, it just seems like it's a roadblock and she's not listening and she doesn't like my advice. And then the other person, it just seems like it clicks and you're like, wow, why did that happen? Like, why did, we said the same thing, but, they received it from you and not from me. And a lot of times it has to do with us being authentic to who we are and how we communicate. But secondarily, the love language of the person that we're trying to communicate to, right? And we do need to take that into account. Number one, I think we always have to be authentic to who we are and communicate as who we are, not trying to talk like, Brene Brown or Tony Robbins or Mother Teresa, but literally talking the way that works best for us, because that's the way we communicate. Always in love, but also listening to and watching for our friends, our family, their love language and how they receive it. So if your love language, for example, is accolades and praise, and you love being praised and you love the compliments, right? But your friend's love language is physical touch, and they really, when you give them compliments and tell them how good they're doing, it doesn't mean anything to them. But when you touch them on the shoulder and you look them in the eye, or you clasp their hands between yours and say, that was so amazing. I'm so proud of you. You did a great job. All of a sudden, they're filled with absolute joy and hope and excitement because you acknowledge them in a way where they felt connected to you because of that touch. Now, the book, The Five Love Languages, is pretty, clear. It talks about, physical touch and accolades and acts of service, gifts, and they're pretty basic. Now, my daughter actually posted something on social media last night, and I thought it was quite good because, again, many women's love banks are so empty, right? That they're not only in overdraft protection, their overdraft has been all used up. And so they don't really respond to kind of those traditional concepts, right? Gifts. Gifts, take them or leave them. I don't like gifts, because really they've lost touch with that. But what my daughter posted was this, and it says, yes, the five love languages, touch starved rather than physical touch. How many women, right, have gone through their day or their life, maybe especially when you've had little kids and they're just touching you all day and they're hanging off you, they're grabbing you, they're on your legs, and the last thing that you think you need is more physical touch when your spouse comes home. But when you say something like, I'm touch starved, right? You could be touched all day long, but what you're looking for is something more than just people pulling at you. You're literally looking for that close, intimate, I care about you touch, right? The second one from this rendition of the five love languages is rather than saying, accolades and compliments, and you're like, well, I don't know if I even believe those accolades or compliments. They say it like this: my parents never told me they are proud of me. Whoa, that's a very different feeling behind it than, oh, I need compliments to feel loved. Because many women, when their love banks are empty and they've stopped believing in themselves, they've stopped accepting themselves, they're down all the time, they've got negative thought processes, those accolades, those compliments, they don't seem to hold the same weight anymore. But when we say, you know what, my parents never told me they were proud of me, and when we think back at that and go, yeah, you know what, that was really important to me, right? We can foster that and encourage that and let those around us know that, you know what, even though I don't seem to be receptive, that is my love language. I really appreciate it when you tell me those things, because I've lost touch of that myself. And I need to be reminded, right, that I'm a strong woman, that I'm a courageous woman, I'm a brave woman, that, I'm beautiful inside and out. So, the love language of gifts. Some people just love gifts. And these are people that are really detailed about gifts. They get even more excited about giving you the gift than they are about receiving gifts themselves. And they go through painstaking details to find you absolutely something perfect. Now, my oldest daughter is like this. Her love language is definitely gifts. And she will spend weeks, if not months, trying to find the absolute perfect thing. And it honestly doesn't matter whether it was free or $2 or $100. It doesn't matter. It just needs to be perfect. She wants to see you light up because it is something that would be special to you or very resonant with you. And people that love gifts often love the beauty of the decoration as well. So maybe there's always a special bow on it. Maybe they always use a fancy colored pen when they're, writing a little card or a note. So this lady, this rendition of the 5 languages says, I love stuff. And I'm like, you know what? True. Because sometimes when we use the word gift, some people don't like that word anymore, right? They're like, no, I don't need gifts because, I don't need anything. But it's just, I love stuff. That was pretty resonant to me because the stuff doesn't matter. Whether it's, your child bringing you a dandelion, right, off of the front lawn, and they think it's the most beautiful flower in the world, and it is, right? But it's just that act that someone actually thought of you. Some of my favorite gifts have been even something from my Mr. Wonderful, where, he's been somewhere at maybe to an ocean or a coast, and he's seen a beautiful rock, right? A beautiful pebble that's been washed by the sand and the waves, and it's so smooth and it's a beautiful color. And he brings it back for me. And, I'm not really a gift person. It's not my love language, but it's a really special gift because he thought, right, wow, she would really love this. And when searching for that, right, or when searching for, my sister sent me for, speaking of my sister, that was pretty cool. I mentioned her name, and the ever lovely Robin Parr is now back online with us. But my sister Robin for Christmas sent me all of these wonderful heirloom seeds. So she purchased some seeds for herself for springtime coming up, and put together all of these little packages of these really neat seeds. So it's not an elaborate gift by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really cool because it means something to me. It means something to her. She's sharing her love of gardening with me, and creates this really interesting thing. So if women where they just love stuff, they're not asking you to buy them, diamond jewelry. They're asking for you to care about purposely thinking about who they are as a person and bringing them something that reminds you of them. And so, Robin, I'm just sharing Hannah posted this really neat rendition of the 5 love languages last night, and we're talking about instead of saying my love language is physical touch, I'm touch starved. Instead of compliments, my parents never told me they were proud of me, and instead of gifts, I love stuff, right? And how so many women are just so disconnected from their love language because their love bank is empty, that they don't even know what their love language is anymore. And so this was kind of a great way for women to maybe think about it in a different way. And so the next one is acts of service, where your love language is like you like people to do things for you that show you care. So for example, when your hubby does the dishes and you're like, man, that's just like amazing. Some of you ladies don't care about that because acts of service is not your deal. But the way that this author pens it is, I'm so effing tired. Please, God, just let me rest for 5 minutes. That's a love language, right? That's like, man, if you would just help me out, if you would just do the, fold the laundry for me, or, give the kids a bath, or, go and pick up our daughter from work, that would like mean the world to me. And then the last one is quality time. And there's a lot of women that their love language is quality time. And sometimes we don't even know what that means in the busyness and that hectic day to day of our life. But this author puts it like this: hey, pay attention to me, right? And for many of us, the hey, paying attention to me isn't sitting on the couch while your partner is mindlessly staring at the TV, because that's not paying attention to me. Sitting side by side eating popcorn or holding hands is not the same as gazing into my eyes, even if you say nothing, right? It's literally that it's just me and you. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the reason I brought it up is because we're talking all about Valentine's Day coming up, and about intimacy and how it really starts with us, and some of the things that we can do to kind of create that intimacy and that connection. And, I opened up with saying that some people, some women in particular, have a hate relationship with Valentine's Day. They don't like it either because they've been burned in the past. Their relationships maybe aren't going well. And then some have even told me, hey, I don't need a day to celebrate my love. It should be every day. And so I want to talk about that comment a lot, because some of that has to do with the mental emotional connection, things that have happened in the past, disappointments. Perhaps your spouse, your lover, your partner, whoever you're in relationship with, doesn't know how to love you in your love language. And so it seems like it's just a yucky day. You're supposed to be loving me, but they might be wanting to spend quality time with you or do something special for you, and you're like, dude, I want the diamonds. I need the gift. In fact, I don't even want the diamonds. Go to the driveway and pick a special rock for me and bring it to me, because I need you to, give me the gift. And so I want to talk about that, Robin, and what are your thoughts on, this Valentine's Day and some of the negativity that women in particular have towards it?
Well, I think you already kind of mentioned a few things that bring negativity to it. A lot of people, including my husband, find it challenging because he calls it a Hallmark holiday where you're supposed to do something and there's so much expectation on the day for this big grand gesture of your undying love for your partner. And if it's not there, then, there's hurt and disappointment and sadness, which totally pulls each other apart versus, bringing you together in this romantic holiday for lovers. Um, it's funny because I never really have my husband home for Valentine's Day. He's usually gone working. Um, I don't really put too much thought on it. He does try and do something that makes me feel special. It's hard from 1,000 miles away, but I think that if you can have a conversation with your partner, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, prior to that, I think that's the thing that I'm trying to incorporate into my relationship with my husband is before a holiday happens or company comes to visit you in the summer or whatever it is, have a conversation of each other's expectations and something that
Mm.
you would like to see happen on that day or during that time frame. So you're not feeling like you don't have a voice or the day goes and they're not meeting your needs, because a lot of times women especially will say if my husband or my boyfriend loves me then he'll just know what I need or want, but how are they
Yes.
supposed to know? Like, how are they supposed to know what you really want? Because we play these games with them too. We'll be like, what do you, they'll ask us what we would like or whatever. And we'll say, oh, nothing, nothing. But deep inside, you know exactly kind of what you would like to see and, or to be gifted or whatever, what you find value in that moment, whether it's Valentine's Day or your birthday or whatever, right? So we say nothing, but we mean something. And so then when the day comes, they get you nothing or they get you something that is not that you want or need, and you feel very disappointed and hurt, and then we pout and they're not understanding. It's like, well, that's what you said, because men are more literal than we are, I find, as a general rule.
Yes.
So they're like, I did exactly what you said and I'm still in the doghouse, so I don't understand. So I think opening up communication, not maybe the day before Valentine's Day or the evening of, like, or after it happens, and then just lambaste them with all this hurt and disappointment. Have a conversation and say, you know, this day is coming up. I know we don't really celebrate it, or we do celebrate it. And this is kind of, you know, what I would like to see happen, instead of thinking that men are going to plan this elaborate romantic dinner on the
Yeah.
beach somewhere and, you know, like blow our minds, because most of them aren't capable of doing that. And
Yeah.
that thought process of what my wife or what my woman really needs or wants. Maybe even people that have been together for 20, 30 years, they still kind of struggle because there's been mixed messages, you know, for
Mhm.
years about what your true needs and wants are.
Yeah. I love that, and I think it's a really good point because number one, expectations lead to disappointment. And so, what Robin was saying is, hey, if you have the conversation before, that way, it's not a private expectation, right? And so if we're sharing that with each other and they know what the expectation is, there's not, I mean, there might be a disappointment because they might not hear you or it might not translate. Or maybe you didn't give them enough time, like Robin says, well, that night of, and you're like, well, hey, I was really hoping that you would, do this or this or this. And now, from a timing standpoint, it's just not possible, right? And so I like this one. Instead of expecting something, anticipate. So eager anticipation is kind of that giddiness or maybe that excitement. But if it happens or not, it doesn't matter because it's just an anticipation. But when we expect, we're often disappointed. And so, ladies, please stop with the games. Just tell them straight up what you're expecting, right? And so if the conversation just starts with, hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, and this is what I was thinking. Guys are not that, dense that they're not going to go, what is she meaning? This is what I was thinking. They're going to go, ding, ding, ding. That's what she wants. And that's going to happen because you've now helped them 1,000,000% to figure out what you want, what you expect, and what's going to happen. They appreciate that. Now, maybe they might come back and say, well, actually, going to Bora Bora next week is kind of like out of the cards, but, we could talk about that and plan that on Valentine's Day for maybe 6 or 8 months down the road, right? But like Brenda just said, they're not mind readers, right? And I love that Scott is participating and, saying, thank you for helping me out. It's something I know you want. And like, heck yes, right? But here's the other thing, ladies, please also don't do yourself an injustice or disservice and just say something like, oh, I thought we could just, watch a movie and cuddle on the couch. You all know that's not what you want. So why are you saying that?
Unless it is.
Unless it is. But then give the specifics, right? Why don't you stop at our favorite Thai place and get some takeout? And, can you pick up this movie, or can you pick up, my favorite bottle of wine, or whatever it is? Like, give the details, right? The more that we come forward with this and we say exactly what we want or what we expect, right, the easier it is. And often, sometimes my Mr. Wonderful will say, well, tell me what you want. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, I know that you know. Why are you not telling me? And I'm like, oh, because I'm too embarrassed to say. And he's like, hello, we've been together. Like in April, it'll be 30 years that we're married and together for like 36 years. He's like, yeah, I know you a little bit better than that, right? Why would you be embarrassed after all these years, all those babies, like all the stuff that's happening? There's literally nothing you could say that would,
Because I think there's a guilt behind us
yeah.
asking for things that we need or want. And it's that same old pushing our own needs behind everybody else to make sure that, the kids have a great birthday, the husband has a great birthday, or Valentine's Day. Like we'll go out and buy like the kids little treats, even though it's like a lover's holiday, a romantic holiday, right? They even do that in school. Then we neglect our spouses. And, I think that it's the shame, like, oh, how I can't ask for what I really want. Like sometimes, we have a idea, yeah, I would love a diamond, whatever, right? But is that in the budget? Like you can't go outside your means and expectations and expect, your husband to go broke to do something for you.
Yes.
But is there something else that you've kind of even, wanted or thought about, or the, whatever that would make you happy? But I think that's the reason why we do that, is the shame. I can't ask for things because,
Well,
you're
it's
not supposed
true.
to need or want things.
And I would also say, two good points are number one, make sure it's what you want. Because if you literally tell your husband in a fit of rage because you fought with the vacuum cleaner again that day, you've tried to cast all the demons out of the vacuum because it stopped sucking up your stuff, right? Don't say to him, I just want a new vacuum. Because when you get a new vacuum on Valentine's Day, you better be happy that you got it because that's what you asked for. So, making sure that you're actually asking for things that you want.
And guys, don't buy gifts for your wife that you want and call it a gift for her.
Love that as well, right? And so sometimes maybe, it's that you don't really want the treadmill, right? But you actually, maybe your greatest desire is that you want to work out together. So maybe that's the gift you ask for. So knowing your love languages, again, is really important because you think that you're going to get this treadmill and you're going to put it in the house and you're going to work out together, and that's not going to happen. So maybe it's the actual gift is the gift that I would like this year is that every morning at 6:30 a.m. or whatever it is, I'd like to work out together and encourage each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful friends of ours, Ken and Yetta, one of the things that they did many years ago and they're still doing today is that the gift was literally that they wanted to take a picture with each other every single day. And after 3 years, they're still taking daily pictures together, which is really actually fantastic. And now they're actually having even fun with it because it's not just, hey, here's the two of us, right? But it's also like, well, here's a picture of our feet, or here's a picture of our hands, or, whatever, just fun and crazy, interesting pictures. So, number one, figure out what your love language is, share with your spouse, communicate with your spouse. Men are mind readers, and be very clear about your expectations so that you're not feeling disappointed and then you're showing up as less than your beautiful, most authentic self. Because, yes, we don't need a day to celebrate our love. It should be every single day, right? But it is a day that I would say, really to show up as your best self. Maybe it's a day that you spend time and um, you set goals, right? Maybe you set goals for your relationship. So just like you would have goals maybe for your business or your fitness goals or your health goals, you really should have goals for your relationships as well. What are we going to do as a couple this year? How are we going to work on a relationship? How are we going to work on ourselves individually to encourage and nurture what is going on? And ladies, I want to talk about intimacy and just shift slightly, because intimacy, there's a really neat kind of colloquialism that we use with intimacy, and it says intimacy means into me you see. So intimacy is really being honest with ourselves and those around us, is developing a crazy level of trust with each other, which can only come through honesty, really. It's being strategically vulnerable at the right times, understanding when to open up and lay it all down in a loving way with ourselves and others. Many of us are not even vulnerable with ourselves. We're lying to ourselves all of the time about how we really feel about that situation or how it's affecting us. It's also, intimacy is affirmations and compliments. If you're not even able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, you look great today, or man, I love your eyes today, I love you, Roxanne, I love you, Robin, right? How is it possible that you're going to be able to show up and tell your spouse that, but also to receive those compliments from them? And then intimacy is also this amazing effort to break away from the mundane day to day today and make time for your relationships and for each other. And I want to launch off and talk a little bit about that, because intimacy is not just a physical relationship. We have to really understand this, right? Intimacy is physical, it's mental, emotional, it's intellectual, and spiritual, right? And so when we hear that word intimacy, you know, some of us, maybe need to get our minds out of the gutter a little bit. It's not always about physical or sexual contact. Intimacy is in every layer of our being, how we show up emotionally, how we show up spiritually, how we show up intellectually. Any thoughts on that, Robin?
Yeah, just intimacy is such a such a interesting part of a relationship, because I think there was I can't remember who said this now, but it's you know sex is not a big part of a relationship until you're not having it.
Mm.
It is then it becomes the biggest part of your relationship. So I think that somewhere along the lines there are problems that start, because women are very emotional um, beings, and as you were talking about earlier about doing the dishes and things like that, foreplay and stuff like that begins with a woman all day long. It's not like the man gets to bed and he wants to have some fun, and then it's like, well, why are you upset? Why are you turned off? Why are you saying no? Right? It's
Yeah.
because it's a buildup throughout the day, and intimacy can come with doing the dishes and that little quick pat on the butt or a rub on the shoulders or anything. But women also forget that their men need that too. And
Mm.
I think that the trap that women kind of fall into is they're always expecting, they like the chase, and they want, the men typically are the ones that chase, right?
Yeah.
But women forget that men have some emotional needs and desires and stuff too. It's not always in the bedroom. And it's the way we speak to each other that creates intimacy. Kind of going back to the last episode where I said, there was the pictures of the best part of the days, having those good conversations instead of always talking about negative things that are wrong. So the intimacy to me is starting with building the relationship, speaking your needs and desires, talking about things like Valentine's Day, and things that are, laid out in front of you, as far as these are going to be romantic moments for us, planning date nights, things like that, and getting each other excited about each other all the time. Like, renew the woo, as they used to say, right? Always date your spouse, never stop dating. So I think that people need to pay attention to their language, how they're speaking to their spouse, acts of service, things that they're doing to help their partner out, and a little bit of affection that goes on as much as you can throughout, the day. Sending that quick little text to your husband, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. You're so hot. I love," just little things like that boost everybody's, um, self. What is that word?
Self-esteem, your moral, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that intimacy really starts in the beginning of your day. Did you say good morning to your spouse? Did you kiss them? Like, or do you just kind of grumping around each other and, like, "You're not a morning person, so don't talk to me till I have coffee." Men internalize that, and it hurts them. They're like, "Okay, I won't be saying that again." Like, wow, I just smoke out my head bit off, kind of thing. So,
Well, and it's really true. And the way we talk to each other, like, honestly, it goes back again to show up. Like, are you showing up to your day, or are you letting the day, run your emotions, your mood, your demeanor? Like, show up. Like, why are you playing into all of the negativity, or something that someone said, or something that you heard? We create our life, right? Life doesn't happen to us, life is happening for us. But if you just let the circumstances of the day dictate how you maneuver, where you go, who you talk to, who you don't, your life is going to honestly be less than brilliant. It's going to be less than stellar, less than radiant, and it's going to be kind of like a ho hum, miserable, grumpy day. Forget about it. You need to wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm alive. This is going to be a fantastic day," and pursue it. Especially when you're in a grumpy mood when you wake up, the very first thing you should be doing is, you know, embracing your spouse. You know what, I love you so much, and kissing them madly and saying, "I was in a bad mood, but man, you just lit up my day," right? Just seeing you, saying to your kids, "You just lit my life up today. Mommy loves seeing you. I love your smiles," right? Even if they're grumping, right? When you say something like that, it automatically shifts, for the child as well, right? So learning these tools about effective communication, not taking out your challenges on those around you. We can maneuver through our day, through our circumstance, without eating everybody up in our path, right? When I was in so much pain that literally I could barely function, I used to eat people up, right? Like, just get out of my way. Like, can't you see I'm in pain? I can't move. I can't function. And it was all, kind of me, 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 me. And, I write this in my book. I want to read this. I wasn't radiating because I wasn't pursuing pleasure in any area of my life. I wasn't playing my guitar, gardening, having date nights with my Mr. Wonderful. I was unhappy. I was a workaholic, distracting myself from the pain of living an unfulfilling life, hopelessly out of touch with my femininity. It's no wonder so many businesswomen have autoimmune disease. We are driven to achieve at the expense of creativity, fun, and pleasure. We trade projects for pleasure while missing out on the joy of living and the people we care about the most. We shift our focus to something that will pull us towards pleasure and allow us to re-experience the life, passion of life. This is something we must do. And it's in everything, right? We are the co-creators, the master painters of our life. Why are we allowing somebody else, a situation, a circumstance to dictate whether we choose to kiss our spouse today, smile at our kids, wave at our neighbor, say hello, how's your day to the lady in the drive-through. Why are we doing that? It's not their fault, right? I love what Shannon has shared with us. It's difficult when you see people lie to themselves. When someone, I think she's meaning women, right, have a hard time being honest with themselves, and they're lying to themselves, they're lying to the world around them. Some women have lied to themselves for so many years, she says, that they find it hard to even acknowledge that they would benefit from change, or that what they do or say, etc., isn't even helping them, right? And it really is so true. We get fixated on everything that's wrong, and we forget everything that's right. Everything that's right with us, everything that's right with our relationships. Some people focus on the tiniest little negative thing in their relationship, and it literally causes a divorce, instead of looking at all of the good that's in their relationship and working towards good communication, good connection, stopping unreasonable silent expectations.
Yeah. It's that nitpicky thing. I think that it starts with something where you don't feel like you're being heard, and you just keep reiterating it over and over and over and over, and it becomes such a nag, and it causes, the split. And whenever you have a fight, you seem to always go back to the same thing. That part is broken, and I don't think that there's effective communication there. People talk about something that's really bothering them consistently, right? So, even though you might have an argument or a conversation, it might not be, angry with your spouse, and you don't feel like, you're like, okay, whatever, just have the conversation ended, because you don't feel like it's going anywhere. It hasn't been resolved. It hasn't, been fixed. So any opportunity that you have to bring that back into the conversation, you will. And then you start picking at that, and the guy's thinking, well, we already dealt with this. We already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just driving a further and further wedge. So this communication isn't effective of how you're speaking or what you're trying to get across. So that's where I think it starts, is just something that's really bothering you, and you find it, going into every single conversation over and over and over again, because people will talk continuously about something that's bothering them until it feels resolved.
Well, and that's really a good point, because first of all, don't bring up an irritation in the height of the moment. Because when we are angry, frustrated, anxious, stressed out, our brain actually cannot think rationally. We're not at our highest level of resourcefulness when we are very emotional, even if we're full of grief or hysterics. We cannot rationally think or process, right? And so there might be something that's a great irritation. It would be really wise to kind of put a little pause button and let your spouse know, hey, I'm really struggling with something. And I'd like to set a time where, we can talk about this, right? Maybe they say, well, what's it about? Give them a highlight. First, let's set the time that we're going to talk about this, because I don't want to talk about it right now. I think we're too much in the moment. So, maybe Saturday morning over breakfast. And I'd like to talk about your snoring, right? Whatever it is, so that they know what it's about, that they're not feeling sideswiped, lambasted, knocked over the head, right? But that you're also not in the moment where you've just had a miserable night's sleep, where you were up all night, where they were snoring or flopping around like a fish in the bed, and then you can talk about it. Hey, this is really bothering me, because sleep is valuable to us both. So what are some of the things that we could try, right, to alleviate this? and then come with solutions,
Yeah.
right? Don't just be like, this is your fault. I've been reading up a little bit, and it maybe says we should get, a diffuser in our room, or we should place some white noise in our room, or maybe we should prop up the bed, or, I actually saw that it says sleeping on your stomach makes it worse. And so maybe we could try something different,
Yeah.
right? And so come with the solutions and be a solution solver, not just here's my problem,
Yeah.
right? Asking questions is really important, right? And so it's not just, ladies, we feel like we need to fill in all the gaps because women, speak over 200,000 more words a day than men. This is a known scientific fact. Some of your spouses aren't talking to you because they already used up all their words that day. Right? They're out of words for the day. Women actually scientifically speak, I think it's over 220,000 more words a day than men.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean you have to do all the talking. Sometimes silence is good, right? Where you can pose a question and just be quiet and wait for their answer. And it might be 5 minutes or 10 minutes before they answer. Because sometimes they do have to collect their thoughts or try and figure out what you're saying, especially if you're saying it in a cloaked way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why are you hiding what you're already telling them you're upset about something? Why are you hiding what you actually feel? But
Mm-hmm.
don't come at it with aggression and rage. Come at it as there's a problem that needs to be resolved,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and try not to do those kind of conversations at bedtime. It's an unwinding time. I think those are times where you should be talking, intimately among yourselves about, positive things about your day. It's very, very bad for your health and your mental health to go to bed with a bunch of negative things on your mind. It
Yeah.
swarms around your subconscious all night while you're sleeping. You have a terrible sleep, and it can actually make you quite sick over time. So I would encourage those conversations to happen when people are awake,
Yeah.
and not busy, like in the middle of a project or on a phone call, or they have a bunch of stuff on their mind. Find a quiet time during the day, sometime when you can do it, and approach it as, yourself first. I feel, not attacking, because as soon as you start attacking somebody, then they are on the instant defense, right? And they're not actually hearing you. They're more thinking in their own mind about their comebacks and what they want to say. They're not hearing you. So,
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, what we focus on is what we experience, right? And so, ladies, think about all the times that your spouse came home and it was just you vomited all over them about every single thing that was wrong with the day. And you've kept a mental list of everything in graphic detail. And then you wonder why your Mr. Wonderful just stands there and stares at you. Well, because you've just lambasted him with a whole bunch of negativity that he probably already experienced at work. And he was just coming home to his safe place to be with his family where he feels loved and supported, right? What if you made a rule for yourself or even for the whole household, right? That for the first hour that everyone comes home and you're together making dinner or having dinner together, that you can only talk about the positive things of the day, happy things, interesting things that you saw or you heard. It's almost guaranteed that you won't ever even bring up the negative that happened in the day.
mhm.
Right. So I love that challenge from Robin last week. What if you made it a goal to take a picture of the most positive thing in your day, and then you share that with your family every day, right? And then eventually, as we know, then you're having competitions to find even more and more and more positive things, because we have a friendly competitive nature where we kind of want to outdo the other with the most amazing thing that happened in our day.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a great way to communicate not only with your spouse, but with your family, like you said, even at a mealtime. If you have still littles around and they're not quite flown the nest, try and make it something that you do at supper time, and it encourages conversation. You know, the family that eats together stays together. We're so busy right now, here and there, sports, activities, meetings, whatever, that we don't actually sit down and enjoy a meal together. And when we do, it seems like everyone's in a rush. They eat their food and then they take off. Nobody's actually sitting down having a conversation with their family, which is so important. You know,
Yeah.
some moms are lucky. I'm lucky I get to communicate with my kids right when I pick them up from school about their day. And you know, supper time is kind of hectic and you're already thinking about doing the dishes and all the lists that you have to do before you go to bed. But it should be a really, like, to sit there and even enjoy your food and to digest your food properly and not wolfing it down and eating as fast as you can, just to
Yeah.
decompress and share really good things and make people, you know, happy. And
Yeah, our son was our, I'll say, gatekeeper for that. That was like his job, and he took it on himself. That we, many years ago said that we would, I actually told the kids that they were no longer allowed to participate in any activities that interfered with family time, with dinner time. So they could do something up to whatever 6 o'clock, or they could do something after, but they could not be involved in activities that interfered with us having supper as a family. And one of the things that we did was talk about what was the best part of your day. And if kind of there was a bit of silence kind of at the beginning of the dinner, my son would always be, "So, Mom, what was the best part of your day?" And he would just instigate that conversation. And there wasn't a day that that didn't happen, because it really almost became the highlight of their day. And some of the kids were so excited that they couldn't wait to share what was so awesome or exciting about their day, right? And so I'm going to challenge you all to do this, right? What will shift in your family dynamics within your own walls of your own home if for the next 2 weeks you just purpose that for the first hour that everyone comes home, it's only positive conversation. So when someone brings up something challenging, asking questions to redirect, well, what was good about that? Right? And not that you don't want to address it, but get them in the habit of looking for the good and let them know that, whatever, come 6 o'clock, come 7 o'clock, we're going to talk about those things and help you work it out. Because often, after talking about all of the positive and experiencing it, the way that we relate to that experience, what happened to us, has shifted, because now our mind is in a different place and we're able to tap into our resourcefulness and think differently about the person, the event, the situation, and come up often with our own solutions because we are in a different mindset. And I'll end by saying this. I'm going to read again a little bit here. Many times in my state of dried up intimacy, and remember we talked about that, into me you see, the honesty, the trust, the affirmations, the compliments, the self-love, right? And also, again, with our relationships. And many times of this state of dried up intimacy and lack of deep connection, I found myself doubting who I was, my career, my purpose, my joy, my peace, and even my existence. When we are in a state of lack, where we are unloving and unkind to ourselves, and we're not able to receive love or kindness from others, everything about who we are tends to shift, right? And we have very negative thought processes, and it's not helpful. More times than I want to remember, I sank down into a less than radiant state and found myself feeling worthless and dissatisfied, storming around the house, taking out my frustrations and hurt on my children, hiding from my husband, refusing his tender embrace. I knew that the prescription I needed was not a medication, but rather to reignite the passion within my soul through connection, intimacy, togetherness, and rekindling my passion with my lover and myself through hobbies that fueled me and made me come alive. When we get the emotional connection we need, the physical intimacy will follow, allowing us to reconnect fully with our femininity and who we are. And I just want to leave you with that, because I hear this day in and day out from, women that I work with about how they're taking out their frustrations on the world around them, and yet creating a world around them that is less than beautiful, and then wondering why it's dark and gloomy, it's depressing, it lacks joy, it lacks passion, it lacks creativity, and it lacks love. Maybe we need to live in love, not in time. Maybe we need to live in love versus in the chaos of the world around us, and just choose constantly to show up as our best self despite what's going on. All you need is within you right now. There's nothing that any one of us is lacking to thrive in this world. There's nothing that any one of us is lacking to show up in peace, in love, in joy, in passion in this moment right now. We literally just have to allow it to bubble forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what you want me to add to that.
Yeah. So don't miss out, right, on experiencing your day fully. Don't miss out on this Valentine's Day coming. And I recognize many of our listeners are maybe not in intimate relationships, but you are in an intimate relationship with yourself. And you do have the capacity and the ability to love yourself more, to show up as your best self for you, so that at the end of the day, it was a day well lived. Throughout the day, you can reframe, readjust, so that it's a day well lived. No one is promised tomorrow. You woke up today. Today is the day. Today is the day to live your best life. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. It doesn't matter what she said. It doesn't matter what happened at the bank. It matters that it's a day well lived, right? And that you know that you laid it all down, and you laughed a little, you smiled a little, you loved a lot, and that you felt peace within the depth of your being. And so thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We had some fantastic conversations today. Love your comments. Remember, you're always welcome to comment. You have to give StreamYard permission to do that, but you're able to do that. There's a little pop-up window there when you comment. We love hearing from you. If you have any thoughts or ideas of things that you might like us to discuss, we're happy to do that as well. Hoping to have a great guest on with us next week that couldn't make it today. But, we always like to close in a bit of prayer. Why? Because prayer changes things, changes the state of our heart, and helps us to better participate and show up. So, Father, I just thank you for each and every listener. I thank you for each and every woman. Lord, just help us to show up as our best self. Tug on our shoulder a little bit, when maybe we're a bit, extra negative, and maybe not seeing things from the right perspective. Help us to slow down, help us to communicate, help us to share our expectations so that we are not disappointed, and help us to love freely, love ourselves and the world around us. And we just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Join us next week on the kitchen table. And remember to live audaciously alive and create your own best life. Thanks so much, everyone. And we hope that you have a beautiful and amazing day. Thanks so much.